The big question on the left, really everywhere, is why is canceling student debt such an important political and economic cause? It's true that debt cancellation won't wipe out other forms of debt that will continue to cause harm. A recent piece in Current Affairs, it takes on this $1.7 trillion that Americans owe in debt, arguing that much of it ultimately canceled, but not before its owners have suffered for decades. If much of it is coupled with free college, will stimulate this economy and will actually get us out of an immediate hole. And of course, part of that, if we know really, I think anybody who has student debt knows this, is that you can't declare bankruptcy with your student debt. You got to pay it. You got to pay it. You default, it affects everything else, your ability to qualify for loans, to buy a house, to buy a car, et cetera. We all know the jam because we're working Americans. Why is this? I mean, it's interesting that Senator Schumer talked about eliminating student debt, sort of means testing it a little bit, whether it's realistic or not. But the fact that he recognized it makes me feel like, okay, they're starting to feel the heat. Other senators are starting to feel the heat locally because there's political pressure from those angles. But I mean, how realistic do we think any sort of cancellation of debt is going to happen, at least on day one? Rep Rab. You got a lot of debt, I assume. You went to a lot of schools.
Oh,
really
good.
Expensive schools.
Yeah. And I'm really concerned about the racial wealth gap, because we talk about income inequality. The real culprit for all of this is the wealth gap. And what you said earlier impacts the ongoing chasm that exists between specifically African Americans and white folk. And for a long time, for every the stat was for every dollar of wealth that a white family has, a black family has a nickel. That means we have to work 20 times as hard to get to parity. So if you're talking about starting a business, you talk about buying a home in a neighborhood where property values will go up. Well, then all of this is interrelated. And so when you do all the things we're supposed to do, right? You pay your taxes, go to school, get a job, get married, buy a home, have kids. You do all the right things, then you're punished with staggering debt. And if you're a woman, or in particular a woman of color, there's no pay equity, right? And then you're discriminated against for buying a home or getting a bank loan, irrespective of your formal education or occupational prestige as an African-American person. So this mean testing thing is bullshit, because systemic racism impacts folks up and down the economic ladder. And historically, in every single era, when Black folk excelled, when we were entrepreneurs, when we were elected officials, when very few were, white vigilante mobs lynched us. They stole our land. They created new laws. They pushed us out of the South and other places. This is the norm. And so, Obama mentioned stuff about means testing too, and how it's really more socioeconomic than it is racial. That is simply not so. And for those of us who have a decent income, I'm 6 generations college educated, and there's no financial transgenerational wealth in my family. 6 generations of Black people in this country have college degrees, no wealth. I don't know a single white person who has 6 generations of college education and no wealth. It is staggering. And so this is a form of reparations. And to do means testing would be deeply problematic.
Form of reparations.
It is.
Yeah, and that's why you hate to see the argument kind of get sucked into this as an elite thing, almost borrowing that Rick Santorum line of like snobs who want to go to college. Remember that, Jem? Right. I think sort of taking the right-wing framing as progressives, as Democrats, as liberals is really, really detrimental, and it's not helping anyone. And I would remind everyone, whether it's 1848 or many other revolutionary situations, it's actually not when you piss off and kind of take away things from poor people that revolutions happen. It's actually when the middle class comes to the end of the meritocratic ladder and finds out that there's nothing there. You know, they poke their head up through. They're like, "I'm here," and they're like, "Yeah, sorry, you're still not part of the club."
With yes. Arun, real quick, just touching on it from the EU perspective. I mean, there's obviously access to free college in the EU, and depending on what country you're in,
and it's much cheaper even when it's not free.
Much cheaper, exactly. So, I mean, is there? Obviously, there's an economic crisis in several countries in the EU. I mean, my family's in Greece. I'm very acutely aware of the lack of money in that country and jobs, well-paying jobs. But in Greece in particular, per capita, most educated, poorest country in, I believe, or Portugal is the poorest country in the EU, but also the most educated. So it's just really fascinating because even if you do provide education, there's just so much. It just shows you that, coming back to day one crisis and priorities for the Biden administration, even if they deal with this education crisis and the student debt, it's not going to be enough because you have a crisis of a million other things on the plate. So I feel like they're using this as an opportunity to just say, look, we've dealt with our most immediate needs. And then they're going to, like they did with Obamacare, frankly, we had to focus on Obamacare. We fought over Obamacare. And as a result, we didn't get to all the other things we wanted to. We have to deal with student debt, could find some compromise on student debt. And then as a result, we're not going to get to all the other things that we need to get to in this economic crisis. But if you look at, there are still countries in crisis that have free education and they still do not have the wages to survive. So, Arun, being in the EU, being part of the Obama world, what are your thoughts?
Like so many things, the European welfare system treats things as necessities that in America are luxuries. You know, certain kinds of healthcare. In fact, most of it in America is a luxury. It's a privilege. Education in Europe is seen as an essential role of the government. It's seen as an essential part of the government. And I will tell you what's happening. Like Trump started the job by like making it harder for extremely smart people from all over the world to come to the United States to go to college. The pandemic is reminding a lot of Europeans who have a lot of cash, who are the normal cash cows for college, so they can give scholarship to American kids, how much they love the University of Maastricht in Holland and Bologna in Italy, and like, oh, maybe I won't. And so it's only going to make the crisis worse in America when the brilliant and sometimes well-resourced foreign kids stop coming to school in America. It's going to be a real problem. We're going to start seeing a brain drain in the same way that it's cheaper to go to Thailand to get your gallbladder removed or whatever. You're going to see more and more kids deciding to go to excellent, excellent universities in Europe and even in Asia.
That's fascinating. I haven't even thought about it from perspective. Well,
some of them are going to stay and start companies there.
We'll just have football games. That's what's going to pay for it all.
Games.
Isn't that how we pay for our education?
Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.